everyone, this is Dino Fighter from Scarlet Tide TCG, and we're gonna do a deck profile today on Premium Tachikaze. We're gonna try and get this done as quickly and as fast as possible. So first, starter, minimum Carno. It's this here basic on ride draw, get your quick shield. Go into that later. First, we'll start with the grade threes. We play 4 copies of Spino Driver. This is your enabler, engorge, eat something, get an extra Excel marker. Play 1 Spino Driver reverse. This is an Eberos build, so we want to, when you ride over Spino Driver with this, you get the break ride, then you get to activate its skill 3 times, where you get to draw a card, call a card, gauge a card. 1 Kernel, we do play this engine. This is also a mini dogma to come down to, like if we're too late and we've done too much, so we can't Eberos, or we're scared to stride and we still want to restand. That's it for grade 3s. We play 7 grade 3s. Play 3 Megarex. This card lets you eat something. This card lets you draw. This card gets gauge. This card gets power. Oldie, but a goldie. Then we play 3 copies of Raptor Captain. This card is a multi-attack engine because when it's retired from R with the gauge, you can Soul Blast 1 and call it. And what's cool is the interaction. So if you eat this with Neberos and it sees that it had a gauge and then you eat the gauge off of Neberos, this still can call itself back and you still get to get rid of the gauge. This is 3 copies of Regiment Dragon Regiodon. You don't want to ride this. This card is your multi-attack engine that when it's retired from R, hard once per turn with a gauge, you can call that gauge, give it a gauge. This also gives a gauge. 2 copies of Sarco Blaze. This is your Silent Tom. This is your guard restrict. So when it's engorged, and it has engorge, it has a keyword. During the battle that it attacked, your opponent can't call grade zeros. Then we play 1 Diluvial Pyro, because we just need to get the 1 to the drop zone, and it's when it's called from gauge, it gains 10k power. Off to the grade 1s. Then we play 4 copies of Savage Shooter. This is your way to get things that you want from your drop zone, selective gauge from your drop zone, under things into multi-attack engine. And then on V, you can Soul Blast 1, draw a card, call a card, and gauge it. Then we play 3 copies of Raptor Sergeant. This also needs no introduction. This, if when on van or rear, when it attacks or boosts, if the unit on the board doesn't have a gauge, give it a gauge. And then on V, you check top 7, find a military dragon that's grade 2 or greater, add it to hand. 3 copies of Blue Sprint. This is Regiodon. 1 Black and Spine. This is your countercharger, soul charger, and it lets you move gauges. I prefer this over Raven Terra. You can play whichever, I just prefer this. 1 Style Accord because it's an Engorge PG that can bounce back to hand. 1 Elementary Sanctitude because it's free PG when your opponent's on grade 4. 2 Little Tyranno. This is also a multi-attack engine. Also goes into Soul. So you can counterblast 1, second is Soul, and we're retired from ARF with the Vanguard with the Engorge ability. That does matter. GB1. Then you can check top 4, call 2 that aren't the same name. 4 stride crit because we want to stride. 3 go to soul crits because sometimes you do have a soul issue. Also gives 10k in power and draw. 2 sentinel crits. We don't play draws because we draw too much in the deck and we don't want to deck out. And we gauge. This is something I'm trying. 2 effect fronts. Dragon Empire effect fronts. 20k shield. Also big power boost to the front row. It's kind of funny when you multi-attack with small pokes. 4 heal guards because we don't want to get early rushed, and so we want to be the ones doing the rushing. And our G guards get pretty big, and so our G guards get pretty big, so it's a good way to heal. Talk about that in a second. 1 OT. Crayon Mental, give 2 units 100k. It's relevant. As long as we can play over trigger, we're going to play over trigger. Ban OT. That's the main deck. Off to the G zone. Play 3 Neberos. Pretty sure this card doesn't need any introduction. Everyone knows what it does. 2 Dogma. This is another restander, but it doesn't interact with gauges. You have to eat 5, and then it can stand -1 drive, but it also gets 10k. 2 Gaia Devastate. This gets around lock, so you play it. 1 Gigantic Pharaoh, 1 Gauntlet Raptor, 1 GB8, just because there's really nothing else we want to play. 2 big G guard. This is your G flipper. It gets huge. 2 blockade Gunga. 1 Rego Garter. 1 G flip. 1 flipper for your um, bullish primers. So that's it for the deck profile. That's Tachikaze. Thank you and have a wonderful day.